What am I taking a picture of here? Ew, look at those nasty feet. They're so wrinkly. Ew. Wait.
The so-called washerwoman's skin on the feet. The deceased had indeed been in the water for a long time.
So what was I...
There are some obvious scratches on the skin.
Probably from falling in? Are we not going to note missing eyeball?
It's likely that the deceased was lying on her back when she was fished out.
Okay, we're missing one thing.
The skin on the hands can be easily separated from the body. The separation takes the form of a glove.
Yeah. Being nasty, you think being held underwater, like, if you still can breathe, it's fine, but you can actually die from just being in the water for too long. Okay.
So, after the preliminary exam, it's time to take a closer look at this. Today's date, the deceased was clothed. Rigor mortis does not need to be checked. Based on the state of decay, you can be
You
sure
weighed
it has
40?
subsided.
That's not much, is it? She doesn't look like she weighs 40, sorry. But that could be like the blood from the water, maybe.
The spots have a purplish blue-red hue, which is a typical sign of the death of the organism. We see thick white foam in the mouth of the deceased, resulting from pulmonary edema.
It's not white foam,
Foam is a
but
characteristic in deaths due to drowning.
Still nothing about
There
the
are
eyeball.
obvious scratches on the skin, especially on the back and hands. These could be defensive wounds, evidence of some sort of altercation prior to death. No obvious signs of struggle. The skin on the hands would have easily peeled away from the flesh. Some of the fingers have already lost their nails. Yep, pretty typical. Liver mortis are formed as a result of putrefaction of blood in the veins. Due to the fact that the deceased was wearing shoes all the time, her feet are in better condition than her hands. Nevertheless, we can still notice a clear, wavy skin and the so-called washerwoman's skin texture. Okay, that's probably enough to indicate a direction for further examination. I'd better note that down in the records. Marks found on the neck and foaming at hands heavily there doesn't seem to be those abrasions appear relative diffuse considering the deceased's penchant for drinking alcohol. It could have been a mere accident. In this case, fortunately, there did make liver a simple trip, loss of balance, and as a result, you end up in a deep hole with no way out. That's all for now. Before I begin the dissection, I'll make sure the suggested identity is correct.
How do I do that?
The suitcase with the fingerprint equipment should be around here somewhere.
A suitcase. Aha.
Here it is. With decomposing bodies, the tissue of the pads and the fingers tends to shrink. To remove these shrinkages, the fingerprint sheet should always be checked. If the body of the deceased is well preserved, fingerprinting is similar to that of a living person. I'm going to conduct a dactyloscopic examination. If in fact the deceased is in the police database, I will find her. Glycerin is injected successively between the nail and the skin of each finger. The substance then enters the fingertip, removing shrinkage and wrinkles.
So you're essentially swelling them up.
Now I take a brush, Only when the skin is taut and elastic can you use ink.
Is it good? Oh, the entire palm. I think we're good, dude. No? No, apparently not.
I
Okay.
think it's enough. I'm getting fingerprint samples. In the case of drowning victims, you have to be extremely careful. The skin may fall off the hand like a glove when you take the print. I'll use the fax machine to add the print into the system.
Oh yeah, fax machines. Those were a thing.
Green button, and... Once the data uploads, I'll run the prints against the police database on the computer.
Can I not take this back out? Okay, no, apparently not.
Great. The data is there.
Ooh, this is old.
Click upload. Now, go through the database and find a matching print. Expect possible hours of fun. One more. Analyze button. And we have a result. Everyone has a story to tell, even if it's just a police record. So, as predicted, the deceased turned out to be Harper Lloyd. That went smoothly. I'll print this out and attach it to the medical records.
I pressed print.
I wasn't sure it would amount to anything, but the World Wide Web has been a blessing for speeding up my work. Great.
Okay.
Now I can go back to my inspection. I'm adding the name of the deceased. I'll start the internal examination by taking fluid from the victim's brain. A needle inserted through the nose. If the victim was alive when she fell into the well, she must have swallowed water fighting for her life. And then diatoms, characteristics of pooled water like a well. In the meantime, I'll check the sample under the microscope. I'm sure that these algae traces will be found in the samples taken from... Now I need to adjust the knobs properly and place the diatom in the center of the slide. Diatoms are single-celled microscopic algae. I won't even notice an army of diatoms. I won't even notice an army of diatoms. The aperture still needs adjustment. It's not... And perfect.
This is perfect? What?
It's... And perfect. Oh, I'm finally starting to see something here. Great. I won't even notice an army of diatoms from this distance. Great. This way I'll see if I'm dealing with a large concentration of these algae. Oh, I'm finally starting to see something here. Oh, I'm finally starting to see something here. It's not a dirty lens, It's not a dirty lens, And perfect. Perfect. It's not a dirty lens. And perfect.
Wait, it says perfect there, but I cannot see shit. What am I looking for?
Oh, I'm finally starting to see. The aperture still needs adjustment. Oh, I'm finally starting to see something here.
Is it this? No. Said it needs to
I've
be
only
at
been noticing
100, yeah.
Great. This way I'll see if I'm dealing with a large concentration. As expected, we find the aforementioned algae in the solution. Their upper part, Epitheca, which overlaps the lower, Hypotheca, is clearly visible.
If you say so.
The presence of diatoms in the brain samples taken indicate that the deceased was certainly alive when she fell into the water and was possibly conscious. Since there were diatoms in the brain, it means that many more of them must have entered the body. Studies of the rest of the organs will most likely confirm this hypothesis. I can finally get to the practical part. I must be extra careful because the skin of the deceased is very stretched. I wouldn't want an explosion here. You can immediately see a very large swelling of the organs. In addition, all internal organs are very congested.
Okay, so the grabbing of the skin is not as easy.
I
as
proceed to
it is.
remove the rib cage. It's easy to see that the ribs have been imprinted in the lungs. So, I'm going to start by drawing blood. If diatoms were only present in the lungs, this would mean that the victim was placed in the well after death, and the perpetrator wanted to get rid of the corpse in this way. Now, I remove the lungs and proceed to their examination.
Oh, we were going to...
Taking the lungs in my hand, I feel that the tissues have lost their elasticity, which is the result of water emphysema. In addition, there is significant swelling of the organs, and as a
Smoker
result,
as well? Oh.
we have a nice imprint of the ribs. The emphysema itself, it's clear how far it's progressed, which is characteristic of drowning.
Okay.
Corpses found in water are worth examining with a tomograph. However, I can't count on such luxuries, so I must reach for a more archaic technology. A bucket and water.
What? There's a bucket here. That's not a good bucket. There's another bucket here.
Ooh, I hope no one dipped a mop in it. It's best to go to the lab for this.
Perform a drown test. How would one do this?
Oh, Jesus.
Are we sure these pills are, like, not causing hallucinations? Okay, I gotta perform a drown test. Do I need to fill it with water? There was another bucket right there. I don't know what it wants me to do. So, just a second. You have family that just call for every little thing. Am I forgetting something? I had to get a bucket and something else?
I don't see any need to mess with the electrics. They are flaky enough as it is.
Do I need to get water?
Historically, the lung float test is used to detect infanticide.
It's nice that you pointed it out that I had to fill it.
The water should be at room temperature. That's enough. To test for this, I have to place the lungs in a container of water. This checks if there is air in the lungs. And speaking of lungs, everything is ready to bring them here.
This seems very unprofessional.
Of course, such a study isn't without flaws. Air may have entered a newborn's airways during resuscitation attempts. Gas is released during.
I
this
doubt
case, however,
they tried
it's
to
about something
resuscitate
else,
her.
namely, the amount of fluid in the lungs. To test for this, I have to place the lungs in a container of water and wait to see if they fall or if they will float on the surface.
Can I? No.
Just as I assumed, the lungs collapsed easily. Fluid could have entered the lungs during panic attempts to catch breath underwater, but it could also be the result of bacterial infections or cancer, so further investigation is needed. I move on to dissecting the lungs of the deceased. You can hear the distinct, very unpleasant crack. The parenchyma is remarkably pale, although small hemorrhagic foci and petechia are present on the surface.
You just say things that I don't
Alright.
understand, man.
Now, I will check the collected fluid under a microscope. If we find 20 diatoms on the slide, it can be considered drowning, and our result is not false. I won't even notice an arm. Oh, I'm fine. It's not. And perfect. The aperture still needs a job. Oh, I'm finally starting to see something. Great. This way I'll see if I'm dealing with a large concentration of these algae.
Still don't know what I'm looking for, but okay. Don't really see a large concentration of anything. Oh, here.
Ah, as expected. In solution, the diatoms are clearly visible. There are smaller and larger clusters of them. There will definitely be more than 20 of them. I'll make a note of all this. So far, this case looks pretty standard. It's clear from the beginning that it's
He
drowning.
sounds so bored. It's just
Well,
another standard
the procedure
case.
requires me to check everything anyway. So, I move on to checking the other organs. I ligate the heart, and then remove it for inspection. Strongly developed putrefactic hemolysis of the organ can be seen at first glance. Apart from that, no signs of a heart attack or other heart disease.
Oh god.
I move on to the next organ. This time, it's the liver. It's immediately apparent that the deceased didn't care for herself. Like most the beginnings of cirrhosis are visible in some areas.
Which is
I
caused by...
transfer the organ to a board and proceed to dissect.
We don't know. We don't know, people. We don't know.
The cross-section clearly shows dilated veins and many small hemorrhagic foci. I must admit that this is quite a feat, considering the rather young age of the deceased.
She was an alcoholic.
Harper enjoyed drinking so much that she might not have lasted a few more years. I move on to the stomach. I take a sample of the fluid for testing. It looks very turbid. I'll see what happens after spinning, but that's in a moment. Now, I carefully ligate the organ, then cut it off. It's enlarged, probably full of putrid gases. I transfer it to the
Oh god, are
board
we gonna...
and carefully open it, checking the
You
contents.
just imagine the smell. Okay, I really need to finish up this case because my dinner is almost ready.
This task smells.
Oh.
Okay, the stomach is full of fluid and unidentified organic matter, which is probably leftover food. So let's check the diatoms. Again, but in a centrifuge for a change. The problem with examining drowned people is being able to show whether the death was due to drowning or whether something else contributed to the death. Cramp, heart attack, drugs, homicide, or some accident. Such an analysis requires viewing from different angles and a careful interpretation of the collected data, including those from the field. That's why it's so important to collect as
Got
many
a feeling that
samples as possible.
picking the notebook up every time, that's gonna be
Unfortunately.
like a spooky there.
Okay,
At some point.
this is one last little sample. Now, set.
I need to check for blood, for alcohol. No. 15 minutes on 70. This is 15, yes. Am I an idiot? Or am I supposed to look for something? Oh, wait. 35 minutes, 25. 35, 25? Is that 25?
Done. I'll run it directly into the chromatograph and run it against
Yay,
the
let's
data
go
for the
back
police.
there.
I'm certain the analysis will show similarities.
This would be more
between the
fun
food
if I could
and
go
water in
clear
Chelsea's
between
well.
these places and he wouldn't just talk the entire time and it was just more like a simulator. Yeah. Pipette.
Let
How
me
much was it?
think.
3.
3 milliliters should be fine.
Yeah, I know. Shut up. 3. Bum bum.
Okay, now it's the chromatograph's turn. Yes. The water sample matches the one provided by the police. Well, the results are quite
So we know
clear.
she drowned in that well.
I was hoping it would be a more interesting case. More diatoms. Analysis indicates the same origin. Blah, blah, blah.
So we know it's a drown. Oh no, we cannot.
There's little left to do. Interesting. Looks like there's something stuck in the trachea. I'm moving to the board for further inspection.
Oh,
I dissect the trachea and open the organ.
might there be something else?
Inside,
ring?
based on the size, I can say that it's a woman's wedding ring. Quite standard from the outside. There's an engraving inside.
13 September 1980.
What the fuck? But this is my ring.
Figured.
Alice's
I
ring.
thought this would be the case.
But how did it? But this should be at home. I have it.
They steal it?
At home. It's. Where am I? Where the.
At some point, you would think he would just keep the pill bottle on him.
Huh?
Okay, one of the toilets opened, but I didn't see it, so no, it didn't happen.
I have to check the apartment. It can't be. Jesus Christ.
Okay, so then we're going to guess that the red Pete
Mr.
dude.
Ridley. Jesus Christ.
Oh, I didn't. Was I supposed to look at him? See, you know, if you're doing scares and you're make my character respond to it, and make sure that I also see that.
Out. This can't be real. Where is it? Where is it? Where? It's not here. It's not.
Okay, we can look at the phone again while we call this dude.
This is sick. Fuck. Come on, Steven. Pick up the fucking phone.
But if that woman swallowed the ring.
What's up, man?
They took the ring.
What? What ring? What are you talking about?
They took the wedding ring. Alice's wedding ring.
One sec. You mean burglary? You said nothing was missing.
Yes, I know that. I don't know. I was jittery. Maybe I didn't notice. I don't know, but
I didn't check for the wedding ring, but Sarnia thinks he might be doing this himself.
Calm down, Jack. Breathe. What happened?
I found it in the trachea of the deceased I was working on. Do you understand? I pulled it out of a dead woman's trachea.
What?
I don't know what's going on.
Wait, no, everything's
You
good.
think Red Pete wants revenge? He's playing with me. Huh? I knew it. I knew it from the beginning this was going to happen. I didn't make it up!
Jack, listen to me. Try to calm down. Don't leave the apartment. I'll be with you right away, okay? I'm on my way.
What sane person would do something like that? How? And when? When the fuck? Fucking Ridley lets in whoever he likes as usual. What are you saying? Steve? Steven?